Escape to the metaverse. Better act like you know. Yeah. You are now tuned into the Matthew and Rizzle show. Yeah. Escape to the metaverse. Better act like you know. Yeah. You are now tuned into the Matthew and Rizzle show. Yeah. Escape to the metaverse. Better act like you know. Yeah. You are now tuned into the Matthew and Rizzle show. Yeah. Escape to the metaverse. Better act like you know. You are now tuned into the Matthew and Rizzle show. Yeah.
How's my audio sound? I mean, sort of like a weird setup.
You lost the DJ echo, which is unfortunate. They sound super clear, actually.
Good, man. I'm an idiot, and I lost my AirPod. I've been hanging on to one AirPod for like a few weeks, and then I lost that one. I'm like, God damn it.
That sucks. That's like my worst nightmare. I don't have AirPods, but one of these earbuds, losing them, it's like game over. It's terrible.
So fucking annoying. I know.
Anyway, dude, it's the 10-year anniversary of Ethereum mainnet launch. Happy birthday, Ethereum.
I guess I got the NFT for whatever that's worth. I don't know.
Send it
to the moon, Vitalik.
What am I missing?
If you go to ethereumfoundation.org, if I'm saying it correctly, they have like a commemorative NFT that you can mint. And I think probably by the time this podcast goes live, it'll be over, but it might still be open today while we're recording. And I don't know, you can mint one per address or whatever. I don't know. It is kind of ironic, I guess, that they're commemorating their 10-year anniversary with an NFT. Like, should we unpack that a little bit?
Yeah, do it.
I mean, historically, NFTs had been sort of looked at as like the bastard stepchild or something of the Ethereum blockchain. And, early days when things really started getting built on top of the blockchain, there was a lot of mistrust and hatred towards DeFi, which was like, I feel like really the first main thing to be built on the Ethereum blockchain that was like, caught some level of like mainstream attention and everything. And then NFTs came along, and Vitalik was like, correct me if I'm wrong, man, or if I'm like misremembering this in some way, but Vitalik was like openly against NFTs and made some statements that he did not want that essentially going on the blockchain. And here we are. Obviously, no one cared. But I don't know, man. Am I like recapping this correctly? I feel like every day now I open social media and everything, and I'm like, and the narrative has changed, and everyone just pretends like this is the way it's always been. I'm like, dude, I'm not taking crazy pills here. I'm pretty sure.
No, but also that's sort of like the trajectory that most folks were on. I think like Vitalik wasn't a fan of the crypto art, the NFTs early on. Although I think they had to have been in crypto kitties. I think everything after that kind of, it wasn't their jam. But then the neon cyan cat or whatever was minted, and I think they came back around to NFTs. But I don't know. I think it's amazing, kind of full circle moment. Everyone sort of has that trajectory where they see folks spending stupid money or any money on these digital JPEGs, like, that's really dumb. Then they learn more about it and they're like, hold on, that's still really dumb. But then they come back around to like, actually it's kind of amazing. And then it's off to the races from there. And then everything else that crypto offers. So I think it's a great signal that they've embraced it in this way. I definitely got to go check it out and mint it. Just for the culture. It's pretty cool to have associated with an old wallet, especially like been here, still here type situation. So I like that. That's cool. And I mean, we had similar comments to V. I don't know I know exactly what you're talking about. This must have been, I don't know if this was the 2021 bull or in the lead up to it when there were comments about that from Vitalik, but totally in Solana was just lumped together like meme coins and NFTs and called them slop or something the other day too. So it feels like every major blockchain founder goes through this as well, where they sleep on it and don't realize why it's important until much later.
Yeah. It just underscores how like ahead of the curve we were, man. And I'm like, I don't know. I as someone who's been a believer in like the stickiness of NFTs from the moment I like stumbled upon them, it's hard not to think that just the constant influx of shit coins attached to shit coins attached to shit that you didn't have to attach a coin to in the first place is like the real slop going on. But it is where, you know, the speculators are hanging out and like, you know, all the gambling occurs and, you know, that kind of thing. But dude, I agree with you. And we talked about this a bit on the last episode too, man, that on a long enough continuum, NFTs just have a quality that's way more sticky about them than anything else almost in crypto. And unless you're like, you know, really intrigued in the like financial aspects of things and DeFi and everything. And that's sort of its own animal at this point. But I'm like, dude, as more creators like start to, you know, live online and build portfolios online and everything, and sort of like understand the concept behind all this, you know, man, I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but it really feels like the inevitable course of events. And it's kind of staggering to me how much it has taken for other people to slowly start to see that too. Like I don't know, man. I mean, I feel like you were the same way as me. Like as soon as you wrapped your head around what was going on here, and dude, you were probably like even more ahead of the curve than I was, because I was very interested in it, but I wasn't really sure it was going to make it out of the gate as a like really agreed upon way of you know, storing and hosting and quantifying digital assets and everything, even though I was like, you know, right there in the mix, but you know, we have I don't know, man, really people who are respected as really high level thought leaders and innovators that are like, you know, many years behind the bell curve in terms of like understanding what we got going on here, you know, just say it like that.
Yeah, I think it's like before coming to crypto, personally, there was sort of a lack of things to actually action and do, right? There's a lot of processes that folks need to partake in before they get somewhere, before they can quote unquote do something. There's not a lot of things that folks can really do in their everyday lives, or most people sort of seem to think like that. With crypto, when I found it, it's just like you have to do something with it for anything to happen. It's all about the action, right? Without action, nothing happens. Without Satoshi pushing out the white paper, yapping about it, building it, launching it, yapping about it more, literally just doing everything to get it out there, nothing comes out of it, right? Responding to the financial crisis in that way by doing, like, that's all crypto is at its core. And I think a lot of people that come to crypto are not really familiar with doing a lot and like how much they can actually do in a space like crypto. And I think that's the disconnect. Once folks really start to realize that it's up to them to do things and that they can actually do quite a lot, whether that's collecting or whatever, building, that is the lag in my personal perspective. And it just takes a lot of people to really catch up and realize that, oh, wow, they can do something. And then from there, it's like, okay, what do I actually do? Putting the thought in there. But luckily, at this point, at least, there's just so much more that folks can actually do to kind of jumpstart that cycle of action. That's a little bit of a heady way to look at it. But that to me is like over the years, sort of the difference between folks coming into crypto and like being shocked and surprised, and then what it takes to get those folks in. And then once they're in, going down the rabbit hole, as we like to say, then they just keep going and doing.
No, absolutely, man. But I feel like And I'm in agreement. I'm not saying but because you're wrong. In accordance with that, though, man, I feel like for such a long time, the only thing to do with crypto was essentially play the investment game in like a variety of like really intriguing ways that were like, new to being in existence, basically. But it wasn't really until like NFTs came along that communities started forming that were not like inherently investment related or speculation based. And I was in all those communities like prior to NFTs coming into the scene, man, and it was exactly what you'd think if that's like the culture. It's a minefield of scams and PvP and people trying to be the last one holding or not be the last one holding the bag, essentially. And NFTs really offered like so many people who were interested in the technology a way to connect with people that you didn't have that as the starting point for the connection, man. And I feel like that's really when like a lot of these ecosystems started flourishing off the board, because you're not wrong, man. Like in terms of like what you can actually do with the tech now, we can bring it back to like Farcaster and the sort of Pandora's box that they've opened, sort of giving people easily accessible tools to start building shit and everything. But I don't think that hits if NFTs aren't a thing or are not a thing yet, because then you're still back in this sort of flywheel of speculation and gambling and trying to sort of, pick which horse is going to win kind of thing. And I think the thing that's been like really good for the crypto community overall that is part of what is sort of shocking to me and why it's why so many people have taken so long to recognize this is that there really was no like cohesive sense of connection across like crypto communities until there was stuff. What am I trying to say? Until there were things inherently in crypto that were not financially driven or and you could participate in crypto and in the community without having to play with the speculation side of things. And there, that door is always open and everything. But especially, L2s have their place and their drawbacks and everything. But especially with like the prevalence of some of these L2s, sort of like opening the doors for creators to get involved and build on the blockchain with very little overhead necessary aside from like sweat equity. Again, I don't think we're where we are if it's not for the stickiness of NFTs and how they've been used to galvanize a lot of these communities, and even the ones that aren't like NFT based now. I feel like it's attracted an audience that is interested in crypto beyond that speculative flywheel that sort of got us to that point initially.
Oh, yeah, you're spot on. Like if you look, the biggest onboarding events into crypto, 2021 NFT boom, right? Of course, there's the hyper financialized aspect or wrapper around all the NFTs and collectibles and the art at that time. But that's what brought in the normies. That's what got mass coverage on all the outlets and everything like that, for better or worse. Like that was huge unlock. And that is because it was this cultural, more familiar, more approachable, collectible art vector that is just easier for regular folks to understand. Like the DeFi side, the financial tooling, that's a very niche audience and always will continue to be, even if it like powers everything else. And there is this debate. I don't even know if you can call it a debate, but there are these thoughts that were thought on Farcaster and X a couple of months ago, like segmenting or bifurcating crypto into Manhattan crypto or Brooklyn crypto. And like Manhattan crypto was like the hyper financialized, the DeFi side, and then Brooklyn was like the culture, the art, the collecting NFTs. And I think that's a kind of a great framing, although the framing was initially made to kind of shit on like collecting and art and NFTs and stuff like that. But you need both halves to make a bigger whole, right? If it's just the financial part, this place is very uninteresting, right? You just have another fintech company that's sort of decentralized, I guess. But you add in the culture, the more human side, the really weird side of things, the collectible, like the permanence, the assets, the object, then it's like, wow, weird things start to grow from there. Interesting things start to grow. People start to come in and congregate more. It sets things off in a really interesting way. So 100% spot on with what you're saying.
Yeah, and I feel like the Ethereum Foundation is like a good example of how like NFTs will just sort of be continued to just not go away, basically, right? Like, in a lot of ways, how are you going to celebrate the 10-year anniversary of the Ethereum Foundation in a crypto native way? No one wants, some fucking shitcoin or whatever. They're not going to like, unleash something like that. You don't want like a little like celebration email or whatever. Like the thing that clearly makes the most sense is for them to drop a commemorative NFT. And I think we start to see more of that, and we have seen more of that where they're treated as straight up digital collectibles, much in the same way that like POAPs were and have been for like such a long time. And I feel like that aspect is something that only continues to gain trajectory, man. And I always bring it back to, watching my kids play like, Fortnite and Roblox and everything. And, I'm always just thinking to myself, like, these kids like totally understand the concept of digital collectibles. They totally understand the concept of digital scarcity. They're being, funneled into these, closed networks and everything, and aren't able to like move anything off. But you start sending, if they were Roblox, Fortnite, if they were to incorporate some things like POAPs or whatever, all these kids would collect them and be comparing them and be like, yo, were you at that thing or whatever? And so, it's again wild to me that this is such a difficult concept for people of our generation to like wrap their heads around. But I feel like the landscape is like really primed, and it is exciting, man, because Fortnite in particular, I haven't like paid as much attention to Roblox, but Fortnite's really interesting, man, because they've got the dev power behind that game is insanity. The game is legit fun to play. It's free to play if you're into like, first person shooters kind of things. And it's really just like an advertising mill, man. Like every fucking content creator, every fucking big brand, Apple just released a skin in Fortnite and everything. And so it's interesting how that's sort of eating up, I feel like, a lot of the last like that generation of marketing that seems to like not really know where to go from here. But it also, I think, as the tools continue to get better to create games, especially with like AI and everything, we just see a lot of that generation start to migrate naturally into tradable digital assets and things on the blockchain and everything. I think we're just a few years away from that being like pretty seamless. And these kids who are 10 to 14 being 14 to 19, and man, we got like 19-year-olds out here like dropping shit coins and making $250,000 in 4 seconds. So it's gonna get interesting, man. I think as this generation like really grows into the fold.
Yeah, and like sort of, I'm really excited about the intermixing possibilities, right? Because like you're mentioning the NFT side of things, and how it's like the art, the collectibles, and then there's that always present like financialized vector or wrapper around it because it's crypto. And I think that's a really interesting point, because it's like, all right, we have the finance side, then we have the NFT side, and the finance was like injected into NFTs, like just because that's the state of things over here. Right. And then you sort of swing back to like financial experiments like meme coins, shit coins, and things like that. And you and we are seeing that side swing back into and circle around the cultural side, trying to mix these shitcoin meme coins with artists, with creators, call them creator coins, call them content coins, whatever you want to call them. I think it's going to get super weird, like even weirder. And you're mentioning the kids kind of just grokking this sort of, okay, that's your digital thing. Gotcha. Yeah, I have digital things too. Check these out. Like they inherently, intrinsically, like just by living and being born into the internet, understand this. And I think they're going to get some of these weird things that are starting to emerge right now that even like crypto native folks aren't completely understanding or getting right away in a way that's just going to set this onto a different trajectory, slightly different maybe angle where you're thinking about just kind of, I don't know, reminded me of this interplay between everything that exists, especially in crypto. And especially as more folks understand what's going on, they'll be able to lean into it and do even more crazy shit to inspire more folks to come over here and get into the sandbox, so to speak.
Yeah, you know me, man. I really like experimentation for the sake of experimentation, and so I'm like sort of wading into like treacherous water here with what I'm about to say because the creator coin shit and giving and sort of doing what you're saying, man, like sort of injecting the DeFi financial side into the art side heavily, right? Like, everything you touch turns into a coin practically. And I think broadly, we've seen that true artists and creators who think like that aren't inherently DeFi financial people and don't inherently handle that side of things very well. And we've seen a lot of artists and creators essentially fumble the financial side of things. And not pointing fingers, not saying that it's really like anybody's fault, but it is like a really strange territory that you're walking into when you all of a sudden have like a shitcoin related to you, a shitcoin related to your art, and there's like all these things to balance and everything. And even like without all that involved, we've seen artists like just not really understand how to approach the market in a way that's most beneficial to them. And on the flip side, we have some examples of artists who have a very thorough understanding of how the financial markets work and have like been very thoughtful when it comes to scarcity and whether or not they're going to release a coin attached to anything. And there is sort of this like awesome sandbox nature where you can get in and do a whole bunch of shit, and who knows what's going to happen. And I am a fan. I am a fan of that, but a lot of these artists are out here like hoping to make this a long-term thing. And I don't know that flooding the market with like a shitcoin attached to every piece of art or everything that people touch is really benefiting anybody. And I feel like this is one of the few situations out here where I think the entire community would actually benefit from like some more guardrails in terms of just understanding how, if I participate in this, this is what happens, and these are the things I need to consider. And maybe that's not even guardrails. Maybe it's just like a loose playbook of like what to expect when you enter into this territory, because it doesn't really feel like there's any of that right now. Or if there is, everything's so fucking fragmented and everything sort of affects everything differently that it's really difficult to, even if you're in the weeds, to know how all the pieces are going to fit together. And, there's a layer of unpredictability when anything's out in the wild. But I don't know we're doing these artists and creators a great service by selling this idea that this is a great thing to experiment with across the board, unless you really know what you're getting yourself into. But my gut tells me that a lot of people, especially the people who are entering into the scene now, where the shit's just flying around, it's sort of normal and accepted and not given a bunch of long-term thought. But this is why I haven't released Rizzle coin for forever, and I've like given it a lot of thought like over the years. But I'm not comfortable putting out something officially tied to my name unless I'm really comfortable with the flywheel, the long-term ramifications, safeguarding like people who will be like, speculated into it, like, all this shit that comes with that. And I don't know, man. Maybe this is just like a sort of a dying attitude, and none of that matters anymore. It's kind of hard to tell how the dust settles with all this, but it's again hard for me to think it's sustainable because it just feels inherently so confusing on both sides, from a collector standpoint and from a creator standpoint.
No, locally, and especially when it comes to artists, I'm in agreement with you. I personally don't think it makes sense for most folks to just like without any thought just coin everything that they do and think that that's going to be okay. I think that's a recipe for disaster. But like on a global level, looking at it, it's like, okay, we're going to see a ton of experiments, and most of them will probably fail, but we're going to see things that will be very interesting and could help change things forever and always. That's like the two sides of it. And personally, I think most artists won't benefit from this approach until something is more concretized and there's a real tried and true way to weave in like the coin side with the art side, which hasn't manifested yet on the art side specifically. But I see where the experiments go, and it's like, okay, there's going to be other creator types who are going to get in here, maybe projects that are going to be taking something from what's happening. Like the thing that's really caught my eye is not necessarily like, okay, like there's the artist side, like you have a JPEG and a coin and it's always on sale. Okay. What Zora and like other project or like bigger marketplaces like FX Hash have done, where they're pairing their own native coin with all these derivative coins, like by artists or creators afterwards. So like artist coins have this natural pairing with Zora or FXH token for FX Hash. There's something there that's really interesting to me, just in like a nuts and bolts perspective and like from a builder perspective. Like those are the things that it's like, okay, we see the activity jump up and we see the immediate like flow back benefit to the parent coin, like Zora coin and FXH coin. And then as that happens, any coins that are built on it, like benefit from that parent coin appreciation. There's something really interesting with that dynamic that I think other builders are seeing and will continue to build on and experiment with. It's things like that that really excite me. But to your point earlier, if I were an artist, I would just be very cautious about this. And especially if you're an artist that really are focused on making this a full-time thing or being serious in a way that speaks to like the trad art side and like serious collectors, right? Then just be careful with it, because like as an artist, like your work is your work. And if you're a serious artist who has been making like super rare and very limited work, and your market is your limited market, and then you go and launch like billions and billions of tokens, what you had is no longer the same thing anymore, like at all, because there's no takebacks when you launch these tokens, and all the derivative potential impacts and side effects of launching a token come from there. So yeah, caution also. NFA, DYOR, none of this is financial advice or anything like that, but it's crazy, man, because there's obviously very interesting things going on, but huge risks for folks, especially how a lot of these projects are like currently marketing their tools and who they're marketing their tools primarily towards, that I personally also find some big issues with.
Yeah, I think I sort of going back to the case I was making the other week, man. I feel like it bodes well for early NFTs, mainnet NFTs, pre-AI NFTs, because I'm like, damn, dude, if you look at the landscape now, like everything's so fucking confusing. But you know what's not confusing, man? A piece of like an OG piece of art from 2020 on Super Rare, or art blocks that you know exactly what it is. There's no bullshit. It's either like, oh, it's a one-on-one, or it's like fully on chain, and there's no tokens associated with it that you have to like keep track of or be mindful of how that's going to affect, like, you know, whatever you got. And it's really makes some of these like early NFTs feel like very clean to me, in the sense of like, I know an artist made that by themselves, straight up, not shitting on AI art at all. You know, I'm a fan, and I do it myself. But
Oh yeah.
I think those few years of NFTs really exist in a bubble that I think we never really get back to. Or I mean, I should take that back. I mean, people will always be minting like 101s and shit on mainnet and that kind of thing. But within the context of that being a time period where that was the only thing that you could really do, and there was a level of trust where it was hosted, you know, or at least a level of education, knowing where it was hosted, and that it was made by the artist without the help of AI. I don't know, man. I think sort of how the scene has become so muddled. I'd like to think the attention swings back to some of this early stuff where you don't really have that kind of dynamic anywhere else in crypto, where it's not like anyone's going out there and being like, yo, I got a 2016 piece of Bitcoin, or, you know, like that shit doesn't happen really anywhere else in cryptocurrencies. And so, again, man, coming back to like sort of people finally glomming on to this like NFT acceptance and learning curve that's taken so many people to get to. I think it bodes well, man. I really feel like we were so early by recognizing the importance of NFTs, but I feel like we were right on the money, man. And on a long enough continuum, people catch up, and I'm like, if I'm a nerd in 2030 that's wants to nerd out on NFTs and understand like the cultural relevance and blah blah blah, 2025 is not the era that I want to dive into. I'm like, this shit is mayhem, and feels like when the culture got to a part where it just got chaotic and spread out and no one really knew what the fuck was going on. And I think that dust does settle eventually, but we're definitely in a period of like rapid experimentation now. And I might eat those words, man. You know how this place moves. But I don't know, man. It's interesting. And again, man, I'm not trying to shit on rapid experimentation. And I'm a big fan of people having the tools to do whatever the fuck they want with. So I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting.
No, I love the dust metaphor too, because it's like it's the Wild West. You know, a lot of wagons come out. It gets real dusty. Can't really see what's what until the dust actually settles. Same thing for like crypto bull markets. Like it gets crazy. Honestly, even afterwards too, because it's like what even is still here is hard to tell often. Its own unique challenge. But yeah, it's double-edged sword. Crypto really is that. It's like it's all the good, all the potential bad, all the best, all the worst, the mayhem, and like literally like probably forever art and projects and protocols and things like that. It's a crazy mixed bag. And everyone sort of each out on their own, but also as we found too, it is possible to find like tribes that you can kind of band together with and make digesting and identifying and seeing what's what a little bit more manageable across the board, with internet friends from all over the world that you end up meeting up with in the world at varying times and places in real life as well. But anyway, beautiful chaos. Absolutely beautiful chaos.
Yeah, dude. I think one of the most beautifully chaotic things that has come out of this entire scene is that the finance bros and the weirdo artists are sort of stuck with each other. And I really like that dynamic because nowhere else does that really happen, where those two communities are essentially, their destinies are tied together and they're forced to like interact with each other. And, culturally, these are, broadly speaking, two very different personality types with very different characteristics and everything. And so I like the way that crypto has sort of forced some people to coexist with people that they might have otherwise avoided like the plague. But I think having some sort of like common ground here that ties us all together, people from sort of like all over the world, all walks of life, and all different industries that would have never really been forced to deal with each other. I'm like, NFTs are sticky. Y'all are fucking stuck with those weirdos.
No, that's low-key hilarious, actually. And it's very true too. Like literally stuck on the same chain with one another. Boom. Dude, so we're recording before the whip. Got it in this week. Probably is going to go out after the whip, but looking forward to Kane Mayfield, the legend himself, jumping on, giving us an update, probably getting into a weird, wacky game as well. Anything else we want to wrap up with before we tidy this one up?
Yes, this will probably go out after Kane has been on the whip, and I'm very confident in saying that people should watch the replay of the whip episode, as well as Fly Frogs. We had Fly Frogs on, and dude just crushed a couple weeks ago, and is just I don't know, man. I have so much admiration and respect for that duo, Fly Frogs and Molecule. To just keep pushing what started as like a fun passion project. And I'm like, dude is really on the cutting edge of innovation in the toy industry, like straight up. He's, working deals with Mattel and introducing concepts that are like very nascent with like, 3D composable frogs and people being able to like, print these out and license and sell them on their own and everything. And I'm like, it's cool. It's cool to see not only that project continue to be iterated on, but man, like, he was someone who came in from the toy industry, and that's sort of where his native turf is inherently. And so it's really cool to see how someone with that type of brain has maneuvered within Web3 and continues to incorporate the project and everything. And I don't know, man. The whip is fucking cool, man. I really, a lot of these, I mean, almost all of them, man. I'm like, it's such a privilege that we get to sort of kick back and have these fucking brilliant people, just sort of come through and hang out and talk about the cool shit that they've been up to. And I feel like every week, man, my mind is blown. And like I said, man, watch the Kane replay. If you're hearing this live now.
Do it. Boom. Awesome. Good shit, dude. All right. Well, thank God we got Dragonate live in the house with us to avoid any potential audio issues with this one. So I know we're safe in good hands. Drago, what should I hit? Should I do save like I did before? Oh, Drago actually didn't save us. We can only save ourselves. Very on brand, on message. There we go. I'm just joking, Drago. Awesome. Save that shit. We're good to go. We're locked in for tomorrow with Kane. Good stuff. Awesome. All right. Well, dude, see you tomorrow. And then Dragonate's mom. Thank you all for being here with us early in the morning. Catch you all at the whip tomorrow. There you go. There, dude.